welcome to episode 46, I believe, of the Let's Talk Game podcast. Light week this week, boys. Don't expect this one to run too long in the tooth, but how have we been? Daniel, you alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. Thanks for asking.
Good. Enjoy it. Rocking the new Pixel Buds rather than your backwards earpiece. I noticed these things.
Yeah, left it at the office.
And the man in the middle, Uncle Chunt, in your fancy pants shirt.
Yeah.
Mate, you alright?
I like the shirt. Yeah, it's just late and I'm tired. Well, it's not late. It's like 8:45, but idiots like me are up at 3 in the morning, so it's late for me.
Idiot is the word that I'd use to describe someone who routinely wakes up at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, not kicking any dirt then, guys. Let's get into
How about you?
How about me? I've got tinnitus. I'm very busy at work. And yeah, life's been difficult this week, so we will not dwell. We will talk about video games and move into what we have been playing this week. And for a change, we'll start with the man in the middle, Uncle Chunt.
Oh, man. I've been playing an arse load, a metric ton of it, of Killer Instinct this week. Yeah, I love that game. It's been a while since I've delved right into it, but I've learned so much more about the game this week than I ever knew. And it's all because of Maximilian Dude and his bring back KI hashtag movement thing, and just got me right into it. There's so much. There's like 3 or 4 seasons worth of content there. There's 2 different single player like story modes and an RPG in there, and it's crazy. So, yep. And no Animal Crossing this week.
Wow, I don't believe that.
And just to cap it off, I haven't. Yeah, I believe it, man. Believe it. And I haven't finished Cyber Shadow though. I'm so close, but I'm stuck on this real asshole of a sequence that I just can't get past. So I went back to Killer Instinct. So that's me.
And Daniel?
I played Madden because it was the Super Bowl this past week, so had to play a little bit of that. Then I watched the and listened to the first monologue of Control, and then I had to turn it off because I had to go do something. So I'm 3 minutes into Control. Can't comment on the game yet.
I think you're about as far into that game as I was. I quit at the end of the first corridor, and I was like, "Yeah, this is a."
I haven't even moved my character yet. I literally just watched the opening scene.
I moved the character only up some stairs and round a corner, and then I was like, "Nah, I'm not feeling this right now. It's not for me." I have played a metric bollock ton of Destiny for a change. You know, been happily out of that world for a while, but it's lured me back in with the promise of a new season, and it's been really entertaining. Enjoyed it a lot. What they're doing, the loop's quite good now. The story's it's Destiny. It's borrowing from Star Wars and everything else it possibly can. But it's nice to hear kind of voice actors doing new stuff, and it is gradually moving forward at an albeit slow pace. And I don't think I played anything else. I'm now past the next part of Pokemon Shield. I don't remember what happened last. I'm to what it's basically the Elite Four version in this game now, which is the champions. But
Sure.
Yeah, fun time playing video games. Well, into the first topic. I had this down as E3 to talk about first, but let's scoot straight to The Last of Us because it's fresh in my brain. Dan, one of your favorite video game franchises has cast its TV series. Tell us a bit about it.
So today was an absolute juggernaut of throwing down shade and how to report on these things. So initially at the start of the day, the Illuminati site put out there that Mahershala Ali from Green Book and Moonlight and
House of Cards,
a whole bunch of different stuff, that he was looking at being cast in the Last of Us TV series that we all know about. Then a little bit later, you get the Hollywood Reporter chime in and say what's her name? Her name is Bella Ramsey, who's played Lady Mormont in Game of Thrones, that she's been cast in Ellie, and a little sentence in there saying that a few nerd sites have been putting out there that Mahershala Ali was talking about the casting. Apparently, he was circling the role, but ended up saying no. So that makes so they've clearly seen this article and said you're freaking wrong. Like you're behind this. And then Deadline pops in after that and says Pedro Pascal is actually tapped to star in The Last of Us. So clearly, this just shows when the big trades have these stories in the back pocket, like they're clearly waiting, and then you have a little nerd site that gets rumblings of something that probably happened 6 months ago. They come out with this thing, and then the trades are like, your information is way behind where we are right now. We were just holding this off, because they talk to the studios. The studios know, and they usually try and have some type of onboarding to release the information when they want it to be released. But clearly, this broke it a little bit, and they're like, "Listen, we gotta post this." So Pedro Pascal, as we know from The Mandalorian, also from Game of Thrones. Just get me good actors in the role, and I will be happy. Neil Druckmann is part of it, so he's kind of the guy that created it. So it's hard to really argue with the guy that is writing the show, wrote the games, to say, yeah, you don't know how to cast a role for characters you created.
I think he'll be. I think he'll be
I'm
good,
happy with it.
Pedro Pascal's a decent shout.
Yeah,
I think he's the right demographic. He's the right age. He's a good actor. Even just thinking of his kind of moody performances, not so much as Mandalorian, because you don't really see him. And he's he's not a silent character, but he doesn't have much to say. His actions do the speaking for him. But in Thrones, as Oberyn, he was beloved, and it was that kind of almost old man sense of humor that most people resonated with. So yeah, it's a good choice. And yeah, it gets to work with other Thrones cast in Little Lady Mormont, who was absolutely hilarious in Game of Thrones. So, very different character for her, but yeah, good on her. Chunt, have you any real thoughts on this? I don't have much to add to it. That's why I kind of put it at the front end. I don't know if you've got anything to add.
Well, I'll be interested to see how Pedro puts on the, American accent in that area of America, because it doesn't. Joel doesn't have a bit of a drawl in his accent in the American country.
He's a Texan.
That's what I remember hearing it. But he's got such a thick accent, wherever he comes from. I can't remember where Pedro comes from, but Pedro Pascal is not like a typical country bumpkin, like country southern name that you would hear. And his accent is thick as, like, even in Wonder Woman, I think he tried to hide it a bit, but it was still there. So I'm interested in that. Like, yeah, he looks the part. He's of the age of the character, and he's a good actor. And
he's Chilean. He's Chilean American. So he's from
right. Yeah, Chilean.
Also, it's not like Troy Baker is the biggest Texan out there either. Like, they're actors. They can do an accent.
Acting
Troy
School
Baker
101
doesn't have a
accents.
Chilean accent. Yeah.
Well, but there's nothing more to add to that.
Yeah. I'm happy with it. It's all right.
Good. Well, there we go. That's The Last of Us movie TV show casting. And coming to HBO Max sometime when it's ready.
Yeah.
Right. What was going to be the first item? E3's returning, which I know that, well, Chunt, I know you and I are very happy about, because the endless cycle of news, which I still think we're going to get this year, is hopefully going to be condensed into something more traditional. Cool to see that, and just want to really have a bit of a jab around what do we think it could look like. Do you think it's going to follow kind of in the footsteps of Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest thing, where it's like basically what they do as a stage show, but kind of just whoever would be hosting sat in their living room kind of navigating and pulling to different areas, pre-recorded obviously. Have you guys got any real opinions on where you think it could go this year? Dan, start with you.
Well, they're talking about still doing it over the 3 days and all as a live streamed event. The problem I have is, like, what is E3 for now? like we obviously all know what it used to be for. It used to be so all the industry could get together, and while you could see reveals of games, you had basically had people in backdoor rooms like making deals, meeting each other, trying to see where they can release these games and have deals between them. You don't really need that anymore. So what is E3? So is it a fan event now? And if it is, it's so far behind on what all these other fan events used to do. And I don't know how that works in a digital space. I know I got a little bit tired of it like you guys did. You guys probably did so more. But why, if you're a publisher, why cram all these announcements into a weekend when you're just going to get overshadowed by something else most of the time? Like it doesn't make sense to spend all this money because they're going to ask for a lot of money, even though it's a live streamed event. That's what I don't get. Why would you all hunker down? Like, it's good for us to just get all this information, but it makes no sense to spend that money.
Well, I agree in a sense with that, like the deal side of it. But I think it became a fan event. Even was it 2 or 3 years back now? They started letting general admissions buy tickets, and it's like I think that signified the change from it being an industry show, like a trade show, to a fan show. And they needed to kind of monetize it. So hopefully this year maybe helps them bridge that gap. Do you know what I mean? It's like you had those 2 years where it was really starting to fail because you'd made it a consumer show. The pandemic happened, it didn't happen. This year is maybe going to be a digital kind of online. Do they really lean heavy into the fan service side of it and forget the businessy side? And then hopefully, next year people can actually go to a show. That's my kind of caveat to your ideas there, Dan. Chunt, thoughts and feelings?
Oh man, yeah. I hope it's just the weekend and we don't get the constant stream like we did last year. Everyone got over it. By the end of the year, there was a sense online, and just the air was like slick with fucking hell. I'm so over these like non-announcements. And a good case study is Cyberpunk, where you kept hearing about it the whole year, and they were just like drip feed shit. And look what happened. It got so hyped, and it could not meet that standard for whatever was going on behind the scenes, and it's just exploded. Which I don't know if that's one of our things we're talking about later, but I don't want that anymore. I want to go back to the whole event and the hype and the excitement. And like, if you look at DC Fandom, it's a good example that happened, where they made a big fan event over a weekend. It was a high production, using technologies that they haven't used before, and it went off really well. And I'd like to see something like that. I think E3 could turn into a big showcase event like that, even bigger than what Jeff Keighley's doing. Even though I quite enjoyed his last one. I thought that was pretty good. It was a bit tighter, I felt. It ran a bit smoother. You don't get a lot of those awkward live moments that are just like, cringe. But yeah, I think we learned a lot last year. I'm hoping so. I'm probably projecting onto the industry here for a moment, but I don't think we're going to have the same year this year. I don't think there's going to be a lot to announce, because Phil Spencer said a number of times that you're going to feel the effects of the pandemic in 2021 as far as games goes. So I don't think we're going to have a lot to kind of be announced or shown throughout this year. I think it's going to be quite light, and I'm okay with that. Just take a break, figure your shit out in your development, and release it when you're good in 2022 if you have to. That's me. It's my take.
Don't get me wrong, like, I don't want it to just find out announcements for games by waiting for investor calls every 3 months. Like, that's just not a fun way to find out about games. But I don't know, even if it was, let's say, over the course of June, and it was just like, okay, this week Microsoft are going to announce stuff, and then it gives us a week to not only talk about what they announced, but also what that means, and then what we think is going to happen in the week after. Then the next week you have Warner Brothers, and they announce their stuff, and then you go through. Like, I'd rather do that over a month, and then let it be done. Like, have E3 over the month, and give a week so you can just breathe a little bit, but then keep the announcements going.
Yeah,
rather than 3 months like Keeley's was.
Yeah, it was far too. But we've got to be, we're saying, oh, we don't, Chunt, you don't think it's going to happen like it did last year. You got to bear in mind that I don't know if it's today or if it's tomorrow, but Epic Games are having their spring games event in like the next 48 hours, and that kickstart. They're calling that their spring showcase. It's fucking February.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's starting already. And it's not spring. I don't care what bloody planet you're on, what continent you're in. It is not spring anywhere. You're in the peaks of summer, like you guys, or well, I suppose the drop off of summer, or you're in the butt freezing cold snow like we are. Like, you know what I mean? The States are the same. It is not spring anywhere. So calling that your spring showcase, it is bizarre. I just spotted that earlier. I was like, that's a nice little anecdote to add to this. But yeah, I think we are probably all on the same page. Let's just have it a bit more condensed this year. As to what it looks like, I think it could be make or break, which is why I think they've got to give it every bit of welly they can and try and build and develop something out of this situation that lets it continue as a physical event when we can do that again. But on some more newsy bits, things and stuff that happened. So Warner Brothers, Dan mentioned them there in terms of, if they had a week to show us what they were doing. Well, what they are doing is they're patenting game mechanics, which has got one half of the games industry really, really pissed off, and the other half celebrating it. So interesting topic for debate on kind of where we land. Not sure if we're all going to be on the same page here, but Chunt, you can take the lead. What do you feel re this patent?
Oh my God. Where does it stop? And where does it begin? It's the depth that varies conversation. What is Mario walking to the right going to be patented, like retroactively? Go, well, all the games in history have gone, all right, this is the model for Mario where you walk forward and hit the Goomba. Oh, there's a game mechanic to know that enemies can hurt you. Well, let's patent that too. And then when they jump over it, that's a game mechanic because you're avoiding damage. Let's patent that too. So every other game is going to retroactively owe us a shit ton of money. I'm really overdoing it, but it's like, well, you just take one step and then another one and then another one. Like, oh man, yeah, it's a Nemesis system. Cool. And they're going to they are trademarking that. Well, they have done, whatever it is. That system that they built for that one game that no other game is used. And I have zero interest in it. Like, I don't know. Like the concept was cool. I just have no interest in that game series. It's probably for a number of reasons I don't really like. I'm not a massive fan of Lord of the Rings outside the films, but regardless of that, it's a slippery slope, man. I don't like it. I don't like the idea that something that's so fundamental to game design is going to be locked behind people that want to own it, and it doesn't invite other people to kind of build upon something. And that's what the whole game industry has been. Where you had Pong, which was like these two paddles bouncing a ball back and forth, and it's like combat. And that could kind of turn into a fighting game where you got a ninja here and a Street Fighter here, and they're fighting each other, like, and then so on and so on and so on. Sonic and then Mario, the same kind of thing. Where's it going to finish? Like Gears of War, they popularized the third-person shooter, like cover shooter. Why don't they come out with Gear 6 and no, that's ours now. That's our game mechanic. That's our shtick. We're going to trademark that. No one else can use it or patent it, whatever. I don't like it. It's a bad sign. And I understand why people are like, yeah, that's cool because ideas, they should be held by the people that created them. But yeah, who decides that? Like I have plenty of ideas here on this computer, but guaranteed someone out there has had a similar idea of like a story I've written or a character design I've drawn. And where does it stop? Like, this is a long conversation that I am not going to sit here and pretend I have the answers to. This is just my off the cuff kind of feelings towards it. And I do worry that it's going to limit some other games if this is a flow-on effect. Like the Arkham series, Batman, that Predator mode, if they were like, no, that's ours, you wouldn't have Spider-Man PS4, and how good that game is, and it built upon it with its own kind of spin on the combat. Yeah, slippery slope. I'll turn it back to you because I can keep going.
Dan?
Yeah, well, I'm very similar spot, John. It's funny you even mentioned Pong, right? Like, what if
Yeah.
tennis patented the game of tennis? Like, pawn is therefore you cannot make a pawn.
Yeah.
I was just reading. So the Nemesis system, they listed as Nemesis characters, Nemesis forts, social vendettas, and followers in computer games is what they tried to patent it as. They've been trying to patent this since 2015. It's just now that they've finally gotten it through. But yeah, I'm in the same part. Like, the other thing is this system has not been used anywhere else, like even in other Warner Brothers games, which I thought it would have. It's like when GTA had the swapping of different characters. I'm like, oh, someone's going to make that, or in Red Dead 2, they're going to have that same mechanic, and then they didn't use it, like being able to switch between characters. So it's weird how these things actually don't really catch on as much as they're beloved. But you're right. Like the innovation, like you also need inspiration, and that's what you do in video games. Things constantly iterate on each other, and you get something awesome out of it. And yet, I think developers here are really angry, and for anyone that is saying, that the people that created it should be able to hold on to that mechanic because they created it. The developers that made this aren't going to be able to take it with them. If this studio like splits off, like it's Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers didn't make it. So are you saying just because they published the game they should deserve to have it, or is it the developers that deserve to have it? So it's a weird argument, but yeah, I'm with you, Chunt.
I think the argument there is if the developer that's owned by a studio develops software or mechanics or something within the studio, it's still Warner Brothers IP, depending on what the contract is or what the agreement is or how they're working.
Can you imagine if Ubisoft like patented, towers, like waypoint towers, which every open world game does now. You go to a spot, you open up an area. Like, you imagine if that was a patent.
Yeah.
Like, games like Horizon we talk about because they take things from Tomb Raider and Ubisoft and all these different games, and they make something sometimes better out of it, sometimes something different. It's just crazy.
It is wild, and I was gonna play devil's advocate and say, but what about the creators, which you already gave your argument back against, which I thoroughly agree with you. Like, the people that create these systems probably don't want this, right? They want, because they come from the industry where they've built on other people's ideas, or they've built on other mechanics that have been created elsewhere, and it's like everything's shared, right? Everything in art and everything in creativity is shared. It's spurned on by inspiration from something else. Be that a book inspiring a movie, or a TV series inspiring a video game, or a video game inspiring a movie. Everything kind of it's just, you're disrupting the natural ebb and flow of it. And why I think they've done this is to stop everyone copying it, because it's a genius system. And Sean, I know you said you obviously didn't have much of a thought in terms of, it's not really your cup of tea, the series, but that system, and Dan, I know you played one of them, is excellent. It's so good. Like, the idea that this thing in the world kills you and gets stronger and more respect for killing you and grows. So it's not a grunt anymore. It's a lieutenant, and then it's a captain, and then it's like it could reach level cap, and you're fighting probably the hardest boss in the game if you let it kill you enough times.
It makes it more satisfying when you take out the enemy, because you have a personal connection to the person you're fighting. Also, this is a series that it's very Assassin's Creed-like in the way that it plays. Like, it's...
Oh, they borrowed so heavily from Assassin's Creed, but they're not complaining about not having the rights to be able to work with that type of an environment, right? I don't think that there's going to be a scenario where this one catches on, because I think enough of the industry are against it. But I do think there's going to be a scenario whereby some studio has to pay Warner Brothers for using this idea. And I think that's the point. I think that's why they've been trying so hard to do it, because they know it's an engaging system. They know it could work in a multitude of video games. And they know that eventually someone is going to put together something that works really well, but it infringes this pattern, and they have to pay up. they're not going to block them using it. They're just going to make them pay for it. Rather than infringing it, they're just going to buy the rights, and that's the way I see it going. And that kind of like leads us into what was going to be kind of our fluffy topic for the week, if you like. What game would you like to see the system used in? And Dan, as you've got familiarity with it, I'll cut to you first. What game would you like to see a Nemesis system in?
Oh, I mean, I want to leave that one for Chunt because I feel like that was his answer, sort of, in the previous one with Arkham. But
I've got more.
All right, well then I'm going to steal Arkham. I reckon it's perfect for the Arkham series. The fact that you already have these characters that you know. You have like Two-Face, you have Penguin, you have Black Mask, you have all these characters around. And what happens if you're fighting these characters and they're all gangs? So someone has to come up to lead particular gangs, and you take one enemy out, someone else rises to the top. Even if it's just a play on that, where there's different areas and there are different mob bosses fighting for different areas. Mafia would be a great one to have that used in, you know, like literally different areas. Like you're trying to keep the crime down or create more crime. I don't know if you're a mafia boss yourself, but yeah, the fact that you've got lieutenants and you got your underlings under that, yeah, Mafia would probably be my other one.
Nice. Just to add to that, this system in this game was apparently meant to be a Batman game for one of the Nolan movies.
Yes, that's
and
correct.
It didn't happen. So, I mean, it could have been a Batman game, like you say.
Makes
but
sense.
yeah, so and also that I think it's another play on Warner Brothers or whoever to maybe like artificially inflate their worth. You know, when they've been putting out "we want to sell" signals to people. You know, if they can go, we've got this one thing that nobody else has, that makes us more valuable. I don't know if that's how that works or what they're thinking, but makes sense to me. But the game that I would probably make the most logical decision on, a game where you're playing in mechanics that your enemies get stronger if you lose against them and you have to get stronger yourself, would makes no much more sense than a Dragon Ball game. Like that's the whole concept of the series, where you have to continuously train to get strong and to beat the next strongest villain that keeps appearing. And like, that would be amazingly insane. And Dragon Ball characters like the Saiyans, like Goku and Vegeta, like when they're defeated or near death, if they get healed, like they get what's called a Zenkai boost, where their race gets stronger when they're healed from near death. So it's like leveling up, that kind of aspect. So I think that lends really well to that. I would play that. You know, backflipping on my previous comment, like I would play that to hell. You know, even a Power Rangers game would lend to that, where some powers are stronger than others. Like the Zeo powers are supposed to be the strongest, and they get stronger over time and all that kind of crap. So, you know, and other like legendary rangers for Megaforce, they can control all the other powers and all that shit. Fuck yeah, I want that. I want both of those games immediately. Yep.
I like that interesting
Done.
idea, Chunt. Could see it working for a Power Rangers game. And Dan, I think you took the easy route out there with the Arkham games. As
I
Chunt
was
said,
first off the rank. Give me a break.
it was originally developed for a Batman game, so definitely the easy route out. I'm gonna go with Destiny. I'd love to see this in Destiny, like as it exists
Ooh.
now. Like you think something in the world kills you, and then it fits their mechanics so perfectly, because you know each enemy mob you face, and Chunt, you'll get this way more than Dan, but you know, take the Fallen, you're from a dreg, a captain, to you know one of the big boys, and then before you know it, you're one of the boss characters, and it's like, right, you could see that route of progression, and every time this thing kills you, it gets stronger and stronger, and then before you know it, you know, you let it take you out 5 or 6 times, and it's a fucking raid boss. Like that would be that'd be outrageous. It'd be so amazing to see that in in your. I don't know how you do that in a persistent world though. You know, does that thing that keeps killing me then get stronger for the whole world, for the whole world to take on, because it's kind of persistent? Is it instance based? You know, I don't know how you make that side of it work, but just the actual thought of that happening would be pretty dope. Like, oh, this guy's just taking me out, and then oh, I've come back and he's got some new armor and some new guns, and oh shit, he's taken me out again, and now he's got a yellow health bar rather than a red one, and they said before you know it, he's big named boss with fucking millions of health at the top of his screen. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Do you know what would be hilarious? Speaking of a Warner Brothers game, if they just put it in Harry Potter.
I think it will be. I
I
genuinely think it will be in there. I don't know how they make it work, but I think it will. I was thinking that when we, because we obviously want to do at some point a downloading soon follow-up series, and Harry Potter spoiler will be one of the games. Well, Hogwarts Legacy, lest we not mention the name of J.K. Rowling's property or the fact that she's a massive twat. Yeah, I think it will be in there. I absolutely do. And even to hypothesize on how that works, you can make that work. You can have sort of, whatever house you're up against, and it's like, oh, you can leave the castle walls. So I think that it's not going to be rooted in Hogwarts. I think it's going to be rooted in the outside world and chasing down some form of the whatever they call their Dark Order or whatever they are. You get taken out by one of them, and it's now, oh, that guy's got a bit stronger. It's the same premise. I just think it'll be really, really cool to experience. What other properties do they have that they could use it on?
Suicide Squad,
Justice League.
Viable. They're both viable options.
Yeah.
I think Warner Brothers games.
Well, what about Gotham Knights?
Yeah, well, that's what made me think about it before.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where I don't want every game to be like it, like Assassin's Creed did for a whole generation of games, where, like we just talked about, every game was either climbing in towers and cover-based third-person shooters. It's fair enough. You just run with it.
If you look at most of their franchises that they have, they make the Lego games. They've got the Mortal Kombat games, Injustice games, and that's pretty much it. And then you got the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War games. Like they don't pump out that many games for them to be able to use that on.
Mad Max.
That would have been a shoe-in for it. Yeah, it's very weird that it didn't make it into that game.
That game was fucking fantastic. I 100%ed that map. Loved it. So if they did that again with that, I'd be down.
It'd be fun to use.
Well, was that a Warner game?
It's Mad Max was Warner Brothers property, and it was made by like Avalanche.
Avalanche made it, yeah. But it would be interesting.
Oh yeah, they did publish it. Yeah,
if it had it in it. And off the back of my suggestion, Hunt, did you get to play in any of Season of the Chosen? Other than
I haven't played it. I watched the cutscene and then I got a bloody phone call, didn't I? It's a bit. I had a long stretch of time where nothing was going on, and oh, what's that? You want to do something you're actually interested in? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, far out. Okay.
Typical life. Well, we've exhausted our topic list in just under 35 minutes. So I said 40. We just managed to nod it out a bit quickly, probably because we haven't played that much this week between us. That section swooped on by.
We are recording early too.
We are, yeah. We're recording a day early. So if anything happens on Friday and you're watching this on the weekend, you go, well, that's huge news. Why didn't they think of that? Someone's having an engagement party and needs to record early this week. But I hope that goes well for you, Dan. I'm sure it will. Don't get divorced before you get married. That's the one rule of an engagement party.
Pretty hard to do.
You'd be
pretty good.
You'd be surprised.
Challenge accepted.
Well, enjoy yourself. Thank you for joining us on this shorter week's episode. We'll see you next week when the man in the middle will be in the hot seat, hopefully with some more stuff to talk about. But stay well, stay safe, wash your hands, and guys, we'll see you next week.
Yeah,